For years now, the story has sounded simple. China is slowing, factories are leaving, India is rising, and somewhere between headlines and thumbnails, a quiet conclusion settled in. India is replacing China. But here's the uncomfortable truth. China was never meant to be replaced, and India was never meant to take its place. What's actually happening is far more interesting and far more dangerous to misunderstand. Because if you get this wrong, you misunderstand where global power, money, and jobs are really going next. And most people already have. Right now, this question matters more than ever. Governments are rewriting trade policies, companies are redrawing supply chains, investors are betting trillions on who wins the next phase of globalization. And in the middle of all of it sits a single assumption, that the world works like musical chairs. China stands up, India sits down. That's not how this game works. To see why, we need to rewind, not to politics, not to nationalism, but to how China actually became China. China didn't just become the world's factory by accident. It wasn't cheap labor alone, it wasn't scale alone, and it definitely wasn't free markets. It was coordination. In the 1990s and early 2000s, China made a very specific bet. Export everything, build everything, absorb everything. Factories weren't just businesses, they were national infrastructure. Land was allocated fast, power was cheap, labor was mobile, rules bent when growth demanded it. If a highway needed to be built, it was built. If a port needed to expand, it expanded. If pollution rose, it was tolerated. Efficiency came first. Everything else came later. And for decades, it worked. China didn't just manufacture toys and clothes. It learned how to manufacture manufacturing. Supply chains stacked on top of each other. Skills compounded. Speed became muscle memory. That's what people forget. China's real advantage wasn't wages, it was density. Now fast forward to today, wages are higher. The population is aging, geopolitics is tense, so factories are leaving. But here's the part most headlines miss. China isn't losing manufacturing, it's shedding the bottom layer. Low margin, labor heavy, easily copied. The stuff every industrial economy eventually outgrows. What's replacing it? Robotics, advanced machinery, electric vehicles, high-end electronics, AI-driven production. While the world argues about where t-shirts will be sewn, China is busy automating the factory that sews them. This isn't decline, it's ascent. Now enter India. India looks at first glance like the perfect successor. Bigger population than China, younger workforce, lower wages, democratic system, global goodwill. On paper, it sounds inevitable, but economies aren't built on paper. They're built on systems. And this is where the myth starts to crack. India doesn't have one labor market. It has many. Over half of its workforce is still in agriculture. Small farms, family plots, political power tied to land. That's not just an economic fact, it's a structural constraint. Moving millions from farms to factories isn't a technical problem, it's a social one. China could relocate workers at scale because the state had that power. India doesn't, and that's not a flaw, it's a trade-off. Democracy slows things down, it adds friction, it adds negotiation, but it also adds resilience. India cannot and will not copy China's path, which means something important. India isn't replacing China, it's doing something else. It's becoming China plus one. For global companies, this matters more than ideology. No CEO wants all production in one country anymore. Not after pandemics, not after trade wars, not after sanctions, so they diversify. Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, Mexico. Each takes a slice. India's slice is specific. Large domestic market, mid-tech assembly, services layered on top of manufacturing, English-speaking management, legal familiarity. India isn't built for speed at any cost. It's built for scale with negotiation. That makes it slower, but also stickier. This is why the hype feels confusing. India is growing, but not explosively. Factories are coming, but not flooding in. GDP rises, but productivity lags. To some viewers, this looks like failure. To others, it looks like inevitability. It's neither. It's constraint-driven growth. Now zoom out. This isn't just about India and China. It's about the end of a phase. The era where one country could absorb the world's manufacturing is over. Not because it's impossible, but because it's politically unacceptable. No democracy can absorb the environmental cost, labor displacement, and inequality China tolerated in its growth phase. And no authoritarian system wants to stay stuck at low margins forever. So the latter shifts, low-end manufacturing spreads, high-end manufacturing concentrates. Services wrap around both. This is the uncomfortable math nobody advertises. Manufacturing doesn't disappear, it stratifies, and countries move up or down that ladder based on institutions, demographics, and politics. Which brings us to the risk. The real danger isn't that India fails to replace China. The danger is that the world expects it to. Supply chains are being designed under the assumption that scale will magically appear, that labor will reorganize itself, that infrastructure will catch up instantly. When that doesn't happen fast enough, prices rise, delays multiply. Inflation sticks around longer than planned. And China? China becomes misunderstood, labeled as declining while quietly consolidating control over the most complex parts of global production. That's how mispricing happens. That's how strategic mistakes happen. History is full of empires that weren't defeated, only misread. So ask yourself this. If China is climbing the value chain, if India is building a parallel one, not a replacement, if manufacturing is fragmenting, not relocating, then what does dominance even mean anymore? Is it about volume, technology, control over choke points, or the ability to survive shocks? Because the next phase of globalization isn't about who makes the most, it's about who breaks last, and the world hasn't decided yet who that will be. Maybe that's the real misunderstanding, not that India is replacing China, but that we're still looking for replacements in a system that no longer works that way. So the question isn't who takes China's place, it's this. In a fragmented, slower, more political global economy, who is actually positioned to adapt when the rules change again? And who is betting on a past that isn't coming back?